everybody. Welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking to talking with Chris Orzechowski. Chris, it's great to connect with you. I love talking about today's topic. You're your company, 100-year brand, 100yearbrand.co is worth checking out. And you are a fractional chief marketing officer, which I think is such a great field, helping e-commerce brands of today become 100-year brands of tomorrow. Sought after e-commerce marketing expert. You've generated over 120 million for your clients. You've got experience working with Robert from Rich Dad Poor Dad, carnivore snacks. I was just talking to my trainer about those, and just a lot of great things. You're also the author of The Moat, Scale Your E-commerce Brands to 8 Figures and Beyond. Great, lots and lots to talk about today, which I'm looking forward. I'd like to start off all of my shows, Chris. I'm a business coach. I work with successful people who are stuck. I get them unstuck. And so usually I ask someone kind of where their stuck is, but I really want to maybe focus on where do people get stuck in marketing and how do you get them unstuck?
Yeah, get stuck a lot of places. But I think the number one thing is really just understanding, like the front end and back end of their business. If you look at every successful brand, whether it's a startup or even a publicly traded company or 100+ year old brand, a lot of these businesses started where, or at least the way that they kind of grew and scale and operate today, is they have the first thing that they sell, right? The front end offer to acquire customers. And then they have everything on the back end, which deepens the relationship. And that's where a lot of the profit comes in. And a lot of times what people do, especially in the world of e-commerce, is like, oh, I have a store, I have a Shopify site, and I have 100 products. And why am I not a millionaire yet? And it's like, well, okay, what's the strategy here? Like, how are we acquiring people? Like, what do we want to lead with our marketing efforts? Like, how do we want to create a system and a funnel to attract the right kind of people who are going to become lifetime buyers? So a lot of times just figuring like that out, that's something that people never stop and think. They just say, oh, I'll just throw up some products on my site and hopefully, it scales, and they're surprised when it doesn't.
Yeah. I love what you're talking about because I think a lot of times people don't pause and think about that. So I appreciate you bringing it up, but also kind of who that client is, what it costs to get that client. But I think to your point, I think one of the things people don't think about enough is the lifetime value of that client, and how to keep them coming back. So that's great. All right, good. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay, let's talk about you and marketing, right? So marketing, to me is something that everybody needs to invest in. It's something that everybody needs to continually double and do more of. I think, Chris, that attention spans are shorter and shorter and shorter. I know that even scientifically, it's less than a goldfish at 7 seconds, and it's getting less and less, I think, every day. Think community, we talk a lot about marketing on the show because you got to stay top of mind. You got to have clear messaging. And sometimes that messaging can change overnight, frankly, depending on what's going on with your avatars, with your market, with the world. And so, when you think of marketing, how do you think, I want to kind of get started on how should, people are in a boardroom right now. It can be a solopreneur, it can be a fortune company. What's one of the first questions they should be asking themselves about their current marketing plan?
So I think it's essentially, what is the story that we're trying to tell? Because like you just mentioned, attention spans are definitely shrinking, and there's just more media. Like there's just not even enough time to consume all the media you want to consume, let alone the other things that you want to do in your life. So the brands that really stand out kind of build narrative, and they build this reason and this aesthetic and this lifestyle around their brand, right? Like, and the brand that I always like bring up is like Polo Ralph Lauren. Like, if you want that like old money Americana type, like if you aspire to be like that, then then you're going to become a customer for life, and you're going to give them thousands of thousands, if not ten thousands of dollars over the course of your lifetime. And you're going to continue to buy decade over decade over decade because they are dangling an aspirational ideal, something that you want to live up to. And I think the best brands do this, even like Coca-Cola, right? Like, you think about like all the holiday cans that they have, and they do their advertising, and everything makes you feel good, and it's designed that way, right? So it's like, what is the story that your brand is trying to tell? There's always someone who's going to be selling what you are selling, and they're going to be selling it cheaper, and they're going to have better distribution, and they're going to have a more convenient way to get it into the customer's hands. So like, why would someone pay a premium and inconvenience themselves to buy from you? It's because of the identity and the aspiration you're building around your brand and around your products. And it's the transformation that these products, because that's what people do in the modern world. They buy their identities, right? They express themselves with the products that they buy.
Right. So I love what you're talking about: aspiration, transformation, showing the transformation. I agree with everything you're saying. I just want to back up for a minute, because you're talking about what is the story that you are telling that your client can receive. You've mentioned the word story a couple of times. Let's talk about the power of story and storytelling, right? You've talked about the narrative and things of that nature. So what makes the ideal story?
I think there's kind of phases for a brand, right? Like the in the beginning, when a brand launches, usually it's the origin story, right? Like if we take carnivore snacks, for example, it was like the frustration of not having any readily available, carnivore approved snacks. Like, you can't bring a George Foreman grill and a ribeye with you everywhere you go, right? So it's like,
That's a lot.
I mean,
That's a
yeah,
lot.
it's
And it smells the office up a bit.
yeah, you can't bring that in the break room. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like, carnivore snacks filled that void, solved the problem, right? And it didn't weigh that was superior to beef jerky and biltong and some of the other options, right? So like, in the beginning, it was really about the origin story of the brand. And then what happens is, as that message gets out and you start getting customers, then it becomes about the story of the clients. And then once the clients all start exhibiting this common ideal that they are aspiring after, that is what the story shifts to. So there's kind of like phases, and all these things can be used, at different life cycles depending on the brand and what you're selling. But again, it's what's going to make someone want to be in the tribe, right? When you
Yeah.
think about, like, humans are tribal for tens of thousands of years, right? However long humans have been around, that's how we've kind of evolved, right? And even though we live in this super connected world with the internet and everything else, like, we still form our own little tribes on the internet. There's Facebook groups, and if you're on Twitter, there's little different pockets and corners of Twitter, and that's how people kind of interact. And those stories are a key part of being in any tribe.
Yeah. So let's talk about tribes for a minute, right? Because different tribes want different content in different ways on every platform, right? And so it's not as easy anymore. Obviously, I'm like dating myself, but you can't just put it in the yellow pages and pick one or two things, right? Every platform has their own algorithms, has their own type of message and flavor that you need to do. And so when it comes to these tribes, let's talk about what people should be thinking about. One of the things I read in your bio, which I really liked, is that you're a staunch advocate for plain text emails. And so I want to get to that, because I just read one of my favorite books of the year, Smart Brevity. I don't know if you read it. I read it a couple months ago. It's worth the read. It's from the guys from Axios and Politico who wrote it. It's brilliant. So how should somebody even begin to get started when every social platform is a little bit different? It's almost overwhelming before you start. So people sometimes don't even begin. Then they don't keep it up, and they lack consistency, which the community, in my opinion, is why you need a chief marketing officer, or at least a fractional person, to kind of help come up with a strategy and then implement and execute. But how should people be kind of, deciding which platforms and what type of content and how to deliver?
So I think that the best way to go about this, at least the best way that I found, is that, like, you want to have one platform that's kind of like your sandbox, right? Like, for me, that's Twitter. Like, because I can just pull up my phone if I'm, rocking my son to sleep. I can pull up my phone, fire off a tweet, I have an idea, whatever, right? And see how that does. If it gets a lot of engagement, I'm like, oh, that's actually a good hook. People are interested in this topic. Then I could turn it into an email, right? I could write an article about it. I could make a video about it. I could do an Instagram reel about it, right? So, like, I always have, and yours doesn't have to be Twitter. It can be whatever you want, right? But you're always going to have one platform where you feel like most at home. Maybe it's Instagram, maybe it's TikTok, right? Where you like to create a certain type of content. or your marketing department feels the most at home there. And then once you play with the ideas in the sandbox, then you could take them and just repurpose them and redistribute them to the other platforms. Now, obviously, it's nice to have the nuance of every platform and have this whole, insanely robust, built out social, strategy, a team member for every platform, but that's not always going to be the case depending on where you're at and the size of your company. But I get a lot of mileage out of, what I do is I actually start with email. Emails like typically my sandbox. And I'll write an email. I'll be like, that email got a lot of good response because of the story I told, or because the lesson that I, imparted, or the parable that I told, or whatever it is, right? And then I'll turn that into a piece of social content, and I'll just use them as distribution networks. So you have your sandbox, then you have other channels which are more for just, repurposing and distribution, and all of that is what creates the feedback loop. So you can kind of be everywhere and get the advantages of it without having to necessarily create all these different pieces of content. Like if you just create one piece of content a day, like I write an email to my list every day. A lot of times I'll take that, I'll turn it into, a long form tweet or Twitter thread. I'll copy and paste onto LinkedIn. I might throw up an image on Instagram and make that the caption. And then, wow, I'm everywhere. But really, I just did one thing. I just, chopped it up a few times and put it different places.
I love that. Let's talk about email for a minute, because studies are showing that people don't read, they skim, they don't necessarily listen to the video, they watch it, but read the captions, right? And so you're talking about doing emails every day. What makes a great email, and why email?
Yeah, well, why email? I mean, people buy an email. That's why, it's just like the way it is. I mean, they buy, they'll buy in social and things like that too. But like when you look at it, the most important stuff in someone's digital life happens in the email inbox, right? When someone gets a password reset, where does that go? It goes, they send it via an email. If you have an official document from the state about your, taxes, that's either coming to your physical mailbox and your digital mailbox, which is your email inbox, right? Like everything important, your receipts all go to, your receipts don't go to your Twitter DMs, right? They go to your email inbox. When you sign up for an account, you need to enter your email. It's like your digital identity. It's a piece of infrastructure of the internet. It's not a social platform that's layered on top of the internet. It's actually a piece of the internet. So being that that's the dynamic, that's where, you're going to organize your life. And that's what most people do. There's like places like in France, like you can get fined if you're asking your employees to check email after work hours. That's how addicted people are to email. So like, yeah, sure, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of newsletters, there's a lot of lower attention spans, everything. But as long as the most important things in your digital life are happening in your inbox, that's where people are going to do their shopping. That's where they're going to buy things. That's where they're going to email themselves to check something out later. So that's why it's so important. And you own your email list. You don't own your social platform following. You can't go to Instagram and export your followers into a .csv file. It doesn't work that way. Instagram owns those people. You own your email list. Obviously, people can unsubscribe, but you own that first party data, where the platforms own the data, and you have to pay them the privilege. Makes a good email. Again, it just goes back to having the relationship, like being the shepherd of your flock, right? Like if you have this tribe of people, if you have these people who, it doesn't matter if you have a physical product brand, if you have a software company, it doesn't matter if you are a personal brand or a business coach or whatever it is, like you are the person leading someone up the mountain, right? They're starting at the bottom. They want to get to the pinnacle. How do you get them there? What products can you put in their hand to get them from base camp 1 to base camp 2 to base camp 3 all the way up to the summit, right? They're on a journey. They're trying to transform into the person they want to become and solve the problems that they want. So how do you tell stories, educate them, entertain them, inspire them, share, belief shifting ideas that get them to see the world in a different way? How do you do all that with email? So you deepen the bond and you show up every day so that you stay top of mind and you get them when they're ready. So that's essentially like my philosophy with email.
How many words is a good email?
Depends. Most are 300 to 400 words, but I've done emails that are 1,500 words long, and some of those are my best because I just it's more about like what is interesting to your people, because people will, while people on average do have shorter attention spans. What I view this as a change. Like they're just sifting through media faster to get to the stuff they want to consume, and then they're spending more time on those individual pieces. So like if you write a really great email and people really resonate with your stuff and they're like, wow, he wrote this just for me, then yeah, like they're going to pay attention and they're going to flip through everything else.
Yeah, I love it. So you talk a lot about transformation for the clients. Rewind for me, a mentor that had a transformative impact on you.
I had a lot. So one of them was John Assaraf from Neurogym. He was in the movie The Secret. He was one of my first like big time clients. I worked with him for about 31 months, and transformative in a number of ways. Obviously, he's a very savvy businessman and taught me a lot. But even just seeing like him, there were promotions we would work on, and he was the CEO of the company. But every now and again, he would roll up his sleeves and get in with me and the other writer and like actually write copy. And it was just amazing to see. I was like, man, this guy's good at everything. Like obviously like he's built a number of successful businesses. It's no surprise, right? But with that opportunity, with that gig that I had with him working as his copywriter for over 2.5 years, I got such an opportunity to go deep with all these different marketing funnels and all these different promotions and campaigns. And I got to work on, the types of promotions that a lot of younger copywriters, lesser experienced copywriters would have never gotten an opportunity to. But because I kind of hitched my wagon in that company, and it wasn't a full-time role, but essentially I treated it like it was. Like I went to meetings, I stayed up late. I said, give me every single project you have. I don't care what it is. I'll hit the deadline. And I did. But it was through that experience when I really cut my teeth and learned a lot and just saw the inside of how a large scale, how an 8-figure brand operates. Everything from how strategy is planned out to how the marketing department is run, to how they buy traffic, how they think about monetization, how they think about the email list, segmentation, all the tech considerations. It was just really eye-opening for me to just be on the inside and see how someone at a high level runs their business on a day-to-day basis.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I like to, in all my podcasts, do kind of a mini business course. So here we go. All right. We're going to do 3 things that every person should be thinking about that they need to do consistently when it comes to their marketing. What's the first thing?
Run ads. And the reason why is because, it's kind of like investing in the stock market, right? Like, all the big gains they say happen 4 or 5 days. And like, if you're trading in and out of the market, you have ads on sometimes and you turn them off. Like you're going to miss the biggest, the one day when someone important sees your ad who has a huge following and they share it because they've discovered you, right? Like that only happens when you're in the game every single day.
Yeah. Love it. All right. Number 2.
Number 2, I would also say email every day because if you're acquiring people every day, you want to be focused on retaining them and escalating the relationship. And you could do this with an autoresponder or you could do it manually, but send out email promotions every single day, and you're going to make a lot more money.
Email to your email list, email on your LinkedIn newsletter, email.
I view it all the same. It's whatever owned audience you have, wherever your newsletter platform is, whatever audience you own, communicate with them on a daily basis and deepen that bond.
Do you teach people how to write emails?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Where can they learn about that?
If you go to 100yearbrand.co and sign up for my list, I email every day as well. And I have some books on Amazon too that are, if you just search my name, Chris Orzechowski, you'll find it. But I have some deeper courses that have more robust education on it as well.
Okay, good. All right. Number 3.
Number 3, I would say is, I guess, just developing new offers.
Yeah.
Developing offers is kind of like a muscle that you have to build up, right? And it's something that people don't talk about, but like really the success in your business is going to come down to, can you make something that people want? Because if people are dying to get your product, marketing becomes easier, sales becomes easier, scaling becomes easier, right? But if you're trying to take a mediocre product and scale with marketing magic, like you can only go so far. But if you have there's a lot of companies who have hot products who absolutely suck at marketing, but they succeed despite of this because they have awesome offers.
Yeah, I love it. All right, good. Mini business course, everyone, on how to be consistent and 3 key things to be thinking about for your marketing with CEO and founder, Chief Marketing Officer, Chris Orzechowski, 100yearbrand.co. All right, back to our scheduled programming. All right, so I feel like right now a lot of people are looking at marketing and they're saying, okay, I can't afford a marketing CMO. I don't need a CMO. Why in under 30 seconds does a fractional CMO make sense?
I think it makes sense because depending on what size you are, you might not need all the bells and whistles. You might just need someone who's owning your marketing and making the right moves so that you can focus on other more important stuff in your business. You don't need 10 different agencies. You don't need 10 different employees. Oftentimes, if you have someone to do the strategy and someone to implement, you're good to go. And you can save yourself a lot of money and get essentially the same result, if not a better result, because you're focused and streamlined.
I think the fractional anything is brilliant, right? The fractional chief marketing officer, I think, is a must for people who don't have one. I kind of have a fractional CMO because I have a social media and a marketing person that have been with me since day one, almost 9 years ago. They are kind of my marketing team, and you need it. You need, you as a business owner, you have great ideas, and then your marketing goes no, or they tweak it and they shift it, and you need it. It's absolutely priceless. I love what you do and how you're helping companies and everything that you do. Let's do a quick speed round. A book or a TED Talk that's had a big impact on you, Chris?
A book I would say is it's two books: The Tao of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. Those are two of my favorites.
All right, good. Those are good books. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
From Napoleon: never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake.
Finish this sentence. One thing every person who is thinking about marketing needs to get clearer with their marketing plan because capital allocation is what's going to make you rich, and every dollar that you waste on something that you shouldn't be spending on is a dollar that could have been going in towards growth. I love it. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are and how they can connect with you, Chris.
Yeah, so my ideal clients are 6 and 7 figure e-commerce brands who typically are in the consumable space, who are looking to scale without wanting to hire a bunch of agencies, and are willing to do it in a streamlined way and as efficiently and effectively as possible.
I love it. And they can connect with you, 100yearbrand.co.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Chris, I really appreciate it. I want to have you back. I love this topic. I love what you're talking about. I love how you gave such great content. I love this podcast. I'm a business coach. I work with people all over the globe who are successful but stuck. And this podcast gives people information to get them unstuck. Think Community, you've heard me talk a lot about marketing on this show. You've heard me say things like double your marketing, whatever you're doing, double that, whatever you're doing, double that. It's really, really important to have marketing brains who are helping you finesse your ideas and your message. It is really, really important. Love everything that you shared today on consistency, marketing, ways to think about it. Think Community, this is worth a double listen. Chris, appreciate your time. Think Community. You can reach Chris at 100yearbrand.co. You can reach me at jondwoskin.com. Thanks, Chris. This was great. I appreciate all your insights.
Thanks so much, John.